Hey everybody, all one or two of you. I know. I was late once again, uh, getting this promotion out. Darren's probably going to kill me if he misses this one because I think it was his idea for me to do um, a Christmas horror faves stream. And I kind of, I was sitting around and I was thinking about what I could do one on. And I thought, well, what the heck? Why don't I do a part one of this? And then in another week or so, I'll do, uh, yeah, probably next week would be a good time to do the other one. And then, we have two of those Christmas horror faves before Christmas um, as just an extra little gift for you. Hey, 71. Okay, that's cool. You can come back whenever you're not busy. So I'll probably still be rambling actually. What I was trying to do was trying to give everybody that might possibly want to come on live too on the stream with me to discuss some of their Christmas horror faves. Um, a chance to come in here and I've got the link in the chat. If you need me to repost it, I can do that. Curly Jaws did message me a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if he is in here right now. But he said something about possibly joining me on the stream live and talking about some of his favorite Christmas horror films. So, um, the more the merrier, I always say. So if whoever wants to come on here, you are certainly welcome. Just trying to adjust my camera just a little bit there. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the way I want it either. I'm so picky. Oh man. Now I kind of got it where it. See, I don't want it to fall off here. I need to start fixing this before I get ready to do these things. I mean, I had it tilted like I wanted it, but ooh, maybe not like that. So, anyway, I'm going to quit messing with it. if I keep doing that, it's probably going to fall off my monitor, and then we won't be seeing anything, which might be a good thing. I don't know. Hey, Texas, you say sorry a little bit late as usual. No problem. I haven't even gotten started with the movies. I was kind of hoping that Darren would be able to come in here because I think he may have possibly wanted to be live on this. But if he can't on this one, maybe the second one I do next week, he can be on that one. Um, and it's okay, if you come live on the stream and whoever's on here has some of the same movies, because I'm sure we're not all going to feel the same or say the same exact things about every one of these movies, even if we do have some of the same movies in our stocks. Hey, TJ. Um, so for tonight, I picked five. Uh, and I'm going to go ahead here in just a little bit and get started with mine, maybe about 10 after. I'll start going through mine. And then if we have some people that want to come live on the stream and talk about some of their favorites. Um, you don't necessarily have to have five. If you've just got two or three, that's fine. I would prefer for this one to keep it at five, to not go over five. Because, like I said, I'm going to have a second stream next week. So if you have more you want to talk about and you want to come on um, the next week, then we can do that as well. So I also want to remind everybody that this Saturday I have a watch along for Don't Open Till Christmas, which will be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, let's see. And the Saturday after that, I will be doing a watch along for Christmas Evil, which will also be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, this week, on Thursday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I am going to have another installment of my Dinner with De Palma. And we will be covering Scarface and Body Double. So, anybody that's interested in joining me live on the streams for any of those, um, I've got to come up with some kind of dinner portion, snack size dinner portion for Scarface and Body Double. It's probably going to go the Scarface route when coming up with a food item. I'll just go ahead and tell you that. TJ, you say, you know, one of my faves already. LOL. Right. Um, so it is now 8:10. So, you know, I don't mind, you know, if some of you come in a little bit later and say, hey, Dana, I want to join on live on the stream with you. And I want to talk about some of my favorite Christmas films. That is perfectly fine. You can come on at any time. I don't know how long I'll be on here. I've been feeling kind of a little funky. I woke up either, I don't know, I was kind of fuzzy headed, so I don't know if it was really late last night or really super early this morning. Feeling pretty rough, and so I'm still feeling the effects of that, but you know, I managed to get through another day of work, learning more new stuff all the time. But we did, um, one of the three new people quit today. And it wasn't because he was feeling overworked. It wasn't because anybody did anything to him. It was because he said he couldn't stand not doing anything for 8 hours. Why he didn't ask our supervisor for more work, I don't know. Our supervisor doesn't even know. He said he wished that the guy had talked to him first. And so he told me and the other guy, if we were frustrated, if we were feeling overwhelmed or anything like that, to please talk to him. And I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, I was kind of shocked that the third guy quit, or third person quit. Um, yeah, that, you know, Texas, that is exactly what I said. Uh, I told Steve, I said, yeah, he needs to go to my former employer and put up with that bullshit and, you know, never having a second to breathe. And, you know, I think what this guy was doing too, I mean, I don't know for sure because we're all working remotely. So I don't really know what somebody's doing or how they're handling their tickets. But, you know, you got to learn to pace yourself too, unless you've just got a ton of tickets and you need to go through those. But right now, they're not giving us newbies a lot of tickets. Um, and so I tend to like take my time with these, get my feet wet, get the process down pat. I'm using this as my training wheels. And then eventually it'll be time to take those training wheels off and ride that bike, you know. Um, but I kind of feel like maybe that's what this guy wasn't doing. that he wasn't pacing himself, that he was just trying to hurry up and get every ticket done that he's getting. But when they're giving us maybe 3 or 4 tickets at a time to do, and these people that have been on this help desk longer than we have got like 60 tickets. And, you know, I'm enjoying my time in the sun because I know that it's going to get busier once we get trained and they start handing off more stuff to us. TJ, you say happens a lot with people with new jobs. Some don't want to work for a living, but his thing was odd. He wasn't saying there was too much work. He said there wasn't enough work, and he was frustrated by it. But I don't know why he didn't talk to our supervisor. Our supervisor's confused too of why he didn't. He started a day later than me and the other guy did. So actually he quit before he even had one weekend. So yeah, I don't know. To each his own, I guess. Welcome back, 71. Okay. So now that I've blabbed about that for a little bit, we're actually going to get to the movies, okay? So, and you guys just let me know, anybody that wants to come live on here and talk about their favorite Christmas movies. Okay. So the first one is one that you guys are probably going to say, "Oh God, ain't you talked about this enough? You did a dang watch along for it and everything." But it's the original Black Christmas, the Bob Clark classic, and you can see mine has been signed by Art Hindle, who plays the boyfriend of one of the sorority sisters in Black Christmas. Art Hindle was also in Porky's. He was in The Brood. So he's been in a lot of Canadian films, and really nice guy if you ever get the chance to meet him. So there's probably, out of you guys that are in the chat, the ones I see actually chatting, I feel pretty confident that you guys know the plot of Black Christmas, but I probably will read just a little bit of it in case, for people that watch this later that are not watching it live on the stream. Texas, you said care delay sucks. And that's exactly what Texas said when we were doing watch along. TJ, you saying you never heard of it? 71, you say, "Oh yes, the plot is simple, LOL." It's kind of simple and complicated at the same time. So drench the halls with kills most bloody. Before Halloween, there was Black Christmas, considered by many to be the first slasher movie. The 1974 Canadian classic by Bob Clark begins with an unseen figure sneaking into a sorority house, oblivious to the predator in their attic. The housemates break out the holiday cheer, but soon start receiving obscene prank calls, and one of them goes missing. As the police investigate, the girls who are dealing with problems of their own, including an unwanted pregnancy, are stalked by the murderer. Black Christmas is thick with mystery, tension, and terror in the style of Hitchcock. And some of you may think this is blasphemy, especially those of you that are big connoisseurs of Hitchcock's work, and I love Hitchcock's work. But I think this takes it several terrifying steps further than Hitchcock, and that's my own personal opinion. Not, you guys can take it for what it's worth. Yeah, TJ says yes. Yeah, 71, the hockey dude. Yes, he plays Chris, the hockey player. Texas, are you saying how they said it in the style of Hitchcock? Did you say that's a reach to say that anyway? Um, because I just think I think that Black Christmas or Bob Clark style rather is very different than Hitchcock style. But this is a movie, and for those of you that were in the Black Christmas watch along, uh, where I had Darren on live with me, audio only, but he was still on here with me, and it was very, I enjoyed that watch along immensely. But Darren asked me about the first time I watched this. When I actually watched this for the first time, I watched it under a different title. And I did not care for it the first time I watched it. I just thought it was vulgar. I didn't get it. Um, but I gave myself a little time and I watched it again. And the second time I watched it at night by myself, and it was very, very effective at that point. And I don't know exactly what I was missing the first time I watched it, but this time it got under my skin. Um, and actually, some of the original taglines for the movie Black Christmas was, um, if this one doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. And, that's exactly the way I felt when I watched it that second time. It was skin crawlingly effective. Bob Clark really knew what he was doing. The calls to the sorority house start out as merely, obscene calls. Um, where the caller is saying very sexual things, very vulgar things to these girls. Margot Kidder's character of Barb gets on the phone and basically tells the guy off. Now, the end of that call, while it started out very obscene, um, you know, basic, and I'm not trying to be vulgar here. I am only, paraphrasing some of the things that the caller said. So, and I mark these as not for children, so keep that in mind. Um, at one point, he says, "Suck my juicy cock." I mean, these are pretty much over. They're not your standard, really, obscene phone calls. That they go into almost another area. Um, oh well, Wes, I'm competing with Raw. It seems like every time I do one of these, I'm competing with something. But oh well. Um, Now, Wes, audio only does count. I've had a lot of entertaining, watch alongs and streams where people were on their audio only. Now, if they weren't willing to do either, if they just wanted to be on the stream and be silent, now that wouldn't that wouldn't work too well. But um, hey, Menelect, you say hello, Christmas horror rights. Um, but at the end of that first call, after listening to all the vulgarity and stuff, and Barb tells the caller off, she basically calls him a fucking creep. And the last thing the caller says to her before he hangs up is, "I'm going to kill you." And you see Barb's face look a little concerned. But as soon as she puts the phone down, she's back to regular Barb. Um, the vulgar, nothing bothers me type of Barb. Um, so, the girls are some of the girls that I mainly refer to as background players, who are just in these first scenes, and they are literally in the background. They're not the main girls. Um, the camera sort of pans over these girls and their concerned looks, their serious looks, all that. But the main characters, Andrea Martin's character of Phil, um, Olivia Hussey's character, Jess, and Claire, who has been out with her boyfriend, uh, she comes in at the point in time that the call comes through. So she's hearing some of it. And Claire, played by Lynn Griffin, um, seems very concerned and wide eyed. Um, and Jess comments that that was sick. Um, and Andrea Martin's character doesn't say a whole lot about it. Um, but Claire does say, "I don't think you should provoke someone like that, Barb." And at that point, Barb says, "Oh, that's minor league. In the city, I forget the exact number, but she's talking like she gets several of those a day in the city." Um, TJ, you say, "I was thinking it's pro women, but it takes the guy to get the attention of the cops at one point. Interesting dichotomy." Yes, exactly, TJ. 71, you said Barb was a bit crazy. Just a bit, just a bit. Um, Texas, you say, "I still say Eugene Levy should have been the killer." Now, that would have been an interesting turn of events, I think, Texas, if Eugene Levy had been the killer. Um, but as the movie moves along, it seems that Jess, Olivia Hussey's character, is the one who takes the brunt of the calls, which become more and more vicious. They become not obscene anymore, but just vicious and threatening. Um, and at that point, it's at that point, I think, that the movie starts to really get under your skin. Um, and it was also at that point in time when the calls get more sinister, where the second time I watched it, I was like, I'm sitting here alone in a dark house. The phone's not very far away from me. If that phone had rang, I know I would have jumped out of my skin. That is how effective those phone calls are in this movie. And I think there's only one other movie where the phone calls affected me the way they did in Black Christmas. And that is When a Stranger Calls. Those two movies, Black Christmas and When a Stranger Calls, have the most effective phone calls from a caller who's calling from inside the house. But where Black Christmas takes it a step further is the fact that the caller and the killer in When a Stranger Calls, that killer is literally just upstairs in the children's bedroom. And although it is frightening that we find out that this killer has killed the children and then is coming after the babysitter, in Black Christmas, we literally see the killer climbing the trellis and going into the attic where they stay throughout the remainder of the movie, except when they come down out of the attic to kill someone. And then they promptly will make another phone call and go back up in the attic and wait to kill someone else till someone else is in a vulnerable state um, where they can take advantage of them. And also the fact that multiple voices are used. Okay. So it literally, even though it's supposed to be one person making these phone calls, and it even at one point, one of the girls says, "Could that be more than one person? Or could that be one person?" Um, and I think Barb makes the comment. I think it's Claire that says that, and then Barb makes a snide comment that, "No, Claire, it's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir making their annual obscene phone call." Um, but it does literally sound like multiple voices, and I think in all actuality, multiple people did these phone calls. And I had heard that the most sadistic lines in the phone calls were done by Bob Clark himself. So, just very effective, uh, spine chilling, really get under your skin, and it really does not separate from you until the movie ends. And I mean, the credits are over and all of that. And in some cases, a first time viewing, it may stay under there a little bit longer. And I think that Bob Clark meant to scare people. He wanted to frighten people with this movie. He was not playing around with this movie. Um, and I think by him being that way and setting out to make a movie um, that was so terrifying that it would stick with someone at some points, even after the movie is over. To me, those are the most effective horror films, are ones that stay with you for a while after the movie is completely over. Whether you've seen it in the movie theater and you're riding home in your car, or you're a passenger in the car and you're still thinking about that damn movie when you're going home, perhaps sometimes even after you've gotten into your house. I've heard of people being, kind of scared to go out to their car after maybe they went to the movies at nighttime and saw a movie that scared them so bad that they were frightened to go out to their car alone. Because people do go see movies alone. They don't always go with another person or with a group of people. Little Dumplings Book, she say Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin were in a great horror film with some cannibal women. I can't remember the name, but I loved it. Yes, yes, they were. And the title is escaping me too, but Steve and I watched it not very long ago. And you said, when a stranger calls was terrifying to me. The thought that it could happen to a young babysitter from inside the house, so terrifying. TJ, you say, it's Agnes, the sister daughter, LOL. um, so, oh yeah, TJ, you say, I still check my back seat before getting in a car. Yeah, I mean, I think that probably has been ingrained into a lot of us. um, to check the back seat of your car, to not put your hand over the side of the bed. Um, in some cases, some people they have to look under the bed. They have to make sure that nobody is under their bed, or no thing is under their bed. Some people have to check the closet and make sure there's nothing in the closet. And some people might say, well, those are childhood fears. We should have all outgrown that. I don't think those deep seated fears, I don't think we ever outgrow them. I still don't like my hands or my feet hanging over the side of the bed. I mean, because down deep, I know there's nothing under the bed, okay? But it's just been ingrained in me over years of these cinematic tropes where if someone looks under the bed, something horrible happens. If someone puts their hand over the side of the bed, something horrible happens. Um, if their foot is hanging over the side, there are so many horrible things or horrible people that have come out from under a bed in the horror films over the years. That, like I said, it's really been ingrained in us. Um, so because I have already done a watch along for this, and Darren and I both talked in depth about Black Christmas. I'm not going to go on too much about it. I'm getting ready to move on to the next one, which I'm probably going to have to take the slip cover off and show you the other cover for it, because it's got some nudity on it and I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. So, but there is a steelbook coming out, or a 4K steelbook coming out of this soon. I think, unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait a little bit longer till I get my first paycheck from the new job to be able to get my copy, but I am going to get a copy. And hopefully I will be able to get it in before Christmas, because I'm really looking forward to watching Black Christmas in 4K. So the next one that I want to talk about, I'm doing a watch along this Saturday for it, and that is Don't Open Till Christmas. And Steve got me this one. This is the Vinegar Syndrome release. And I did watch it, and it looks really, really good. A low budget one nonetheless, but still, I think this is a fun Christmas horror movie. And it has the tagline, "The gift of terror just won't wait." And I really love this artwork. And here's something I wanted to show you, even though I can't really show you the thing with the nudity on it because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. But let me see if I can cover up the nudity on the other side. But you see that all the names there. I didn't even know this was here. I knew that the slip cover. Maybe I can cover that up and show y'all this slip cover there. I'm covering her boobies up so I don't get in trouble. But I knew that the slip cover. I'm going to cover that up again. I knew that the slip cover looked like it kind of lifted this part of it lifted up, but I thought, well, I don't want to go pulling on it because maybe that's not the case. So Steve told me, he said, "Did you open it up and see that it's signed by some of the people that, or maybe all the people that work at Vinegar Syndrome, like a Christmas card?" I was like, "No." And so I opened it up, and it's really cool. It's a little bit of a different thing, or a different way to do the slip cover. But anyway, just wanted to show you that in case some of you either have already got this version or you are going to be getting it soon. So, just a little plot synopsis for Don't Open Till Christmas. It's just days before Christmas in London, but not everyone is full of good cheer. As a maniac with a pathological hatred of Santa Claus stalks the streets, butchering any man that's unlucky enough to be wandering around dressed as Old St. Nick. Not restricting himself to any one method of murder, the twisted killer dishes out stabbings, gunshots, a castration, and even burns the face of one poor Santa on his own roasting chestnuts. As the bodies of the slaughtered Father Christmases pile up, Chief Inspector Harris finds himself under increasing pressure to crack the case before the holiday is canceled for good. The product of an extremely troubled production, and it was Edmund Purdom, who plays Inspector Harris in here, actually started out as director of this. He is still listed as director, but I believe partially, part of the way through the movie, he was kind of replaced. And there were some other things as well. Dawn of Till Christmas was the second stalk and slash collaboration between legendary exploitation producer Dick Randall and former matinee idol Edmund Purdom. After 1982's deliciously bonkers Pieces, originally conceived as Purdom's directorial debut, the resulting footage was considered such a mess that much of it was rewritten and reshot by director Alan Birkinshaw, who did Killer's Moon under a pseudonym. The end result is a fascinating and endlessly entertaining patchwork of slasher film and super sleazy thriller, punctuated by shocking moments of gore, which appear almost out of nowhere, as well as an entirely gratuitous musical number from horror icon Caroline Munro. Finally restored from original 35mm negative elements by Vinegar Syndrome and jam-packed with new bonus features along with a selection of archival treats, including long-lost things discovered in a rough cut. This is one present you won't want to leave under the tree. Texas, you say you got that in the October bundle? Awesome. Have you watched it yet, Texas? I was just wondering what you thought of the transfer. So, it don't open till Christmas. I'm trying to remember the first time I watched it. It wasn't on my a Christmas horror movie list for a long time, and I honestly, guys, I can't remember how I discovered it. I probably read about it somewhere, and then was able to get a really cheap version of it. I'm like talking super cheap, like one of those diamond DVDs or whatever. Does anybody remember those? Steve now, on the other hand, has the Mondo Macabre version of it, which I believe has the same documentary on it as this Vinegar Syndrome release. But I've always liked this one. It's a little quirky, a little odd, and the way it's described on the back, the plot synopsis I was just reading to you, a patchwork slasher. It certainly is that. But I think that, I hate that it had a trouble production. And I hate that a lot of the stuff that Edmund Purdom shot originally got rewritten. Because I know they said it was a mess, but I really would have liked to have seen what Edmund Purdom could have done with it. It would have been nice if somehow they were able to put together the pieces of the puzzle that Edmund Purdom had made and maybe have it as an extra on here. But I'm guessing those elements didn't survive. And so, They didn't get to use them. Um, Texas, you say not yet. No, you haven't had a chance to watch it. Okay, so this movie too is not a killer in a Santa suit. It's the reverse. Someone evidently hates Santa Claus and hates Christmas enough that they're killing anybody dressed as Santa Claus. And yeah, some of it is sleazy. Um, I'm not going to say it's not. I mean, heck, I had to cover up boobies on the slip cover, so there's an element of sleaze there. But I don't think that the sleaze or the exploitive parts of the film took away from the horror parts of the film. I still think, um, even though it was a troubled production, even though there were some weird, quirky things, just like putting Caroline Monroe in there just for a song and dance number. Um, she wasn't in there to be stalked or slashed or anything like that. A dead body does show up during her routine. But other than that, it's Caroline Monroe doing a song and dance number and screaming because she sees a dead body, and that's that. And that's all she wrote as far as Caroline Monroe's character in the movie. 71, you say, I need to find a website to sell my DVDs on. I mean, you might be able to, I don't know if you are interested in doing that on eBay or not, but I mean, sometimes you can sell DVDs for pretty good money on there. TJ, you say, I would swear I heard about this through Dead Pit back in their original run. And you might very well have, TJ, but I think I'm pretty sure I discovered it before I was listening to Dead Pit. So I had watched it for several years at Christmas time, before listening to, or before discovering Dead Pit. And I'm not saying that they didn't turn some people on to Don't Open Till Christmas. Um, yeah, the kills are, interesting. Um, for instance, one of the first guys dressed as Santa Claus, that gets killed during a party, a spear or something is thrown, and at the moment that it is thrown, he's blowing one of those little party horns, like you usually have it on New Year's or whatever, and the spear actually goes through the back of his head and out his mouth, and the little party horn is still there too. So it's very gruesome and effective. Like it said on the back of the movie, um, there's a Santa Claus that's got roasting chestnuts, and his face, excuse me, his face is literally pressed down into his roasting chestnuts. Um, one guy dressed as Santa Claus is castrated. Uh, and there's a lot of blood, I'll tell you. Um, One Santa Claus gets his throat slit, but they're not all the same kills. And yes, there is a motive. I don't want to give away that motive though, because that may give away the killer, and I don't want to do that, because you will figure out the killer before the end of the movie. They will reveal the killer before the end. It's not like it's going to be some huge twist, but for those of you in here that have not ever seen it before, or for people that might be watching this stream later that have not seen it, I don't want to ruin that point in the film for them. 71, you say, that's going to be an option. I need some money. Oh, I understand that. Little Dumplings book says Facebook Marketplace or eBay. Hey, Robert Long. Robert Long suggested Mercari. Yeah, that is an option as well. Um, so I think, even though they said pretty much the stuff that Edmund Purdom shot as a director of this film was pretty much a mess, I think he's really good as Inspector Harris in this. Some people might think it's sleazy because the first guy dressed as Santa Claus who gets killed is the father of this young woman who Inspector Harris kind of takes a liking to, takes a shine to her. And he gets close to her. They actually go out to dinner at one point, and she does have a boyfriend, Cliff, who becomes increasingly jealous of Inspector Harris for spending so much time with his girlfriend. But I think if Cliff would quit doing stupid things like taking her to his buddy's photography place or his house or wherever he was doing this, and insinuating that he and his girlfriend are gonna do some nude shots with this other woman that's there who's already undressed when they get to Cliff's friend's house. Cliff has the potential to be a good guy, but he keeps making stupid mistakes. And they're really mistakes that if he put a little thought behind it, he would realize that these are not the places you take your girlfriend. Some of the things he says to her, like after her father is murdered basically in front of her eyes, that they need to talk to this lawyer because they might be able to get some money. I mean, at certain times he seems very emotionless, very uncaring. And in a lot of ways, he pushes her towards Inspector Harris by being stupid. And then he wants to get angry when she, would rather spend more time with Inspector Harris than spend time with him. But I think the kills are unique for the most part in this movie. I don't think it's a stupid movie. It's low budget, sure. But I believe that Black Christmas was low budget as well, but it's very effective. This one is not terrifying to me, but it's fun. It's just a fun little film. Not very long at 87 minutes. Came out in 1984. So it came out about 10 years after Black Christmas did. It is more I guess more of what I would call the Friday the 13th of Christmas films. Because it is pretty much a standard stalk and slash. There's not a lot of suspense or creepy shots. There's no creepy phone calls. There's none of that. It's your standard, like I said, stalk and slash. But I think the fact that it's so fun and so entertaining while still having those Christmassy elements in it, I think is what really makes it work for me, and why I enjoy it and why I continue to watch it every year around the Christmas holidays. So anyway, that is Don't Open Till Christmas. I'm going to put it back in the slip cover here. So the next one is probably on a lot of hardcore horror fans' list at Christmas time. And that is the original A Silent Night, Deadly Night. In this one, we actually have the killer dressed in a Santa suit. This movie took a lot of heat when it first came out and got pulled from the theaters. And it's for the very reason that you see here, that the killer is dressed as Santa Claus, which made a lot of mothers just lose their freaking minds, because here they were around the holidays going to see movies at the movie theater. And here we have a poster that is similar to the artwork I used to promote this stream, of what appears to be Santa Claus going down the chimney with an axe in his hand. Okay. On one hand, I guess I could understand the mothers being a little upset. I think they were also upset that the commercials for, or the trailers for this movie were being shown during prime time on television, during family hour, when families were sitting down to watch television together. And a lot of mothers were complaining that it was disturbing their children. But I don't think I would have gone so far as to protest in the streets. Well, I know I wouldn't. But, because I'm very much against censorship. So I would never have wanted them to pull the movie from the theater. But that's what they ended up doing. And then I think it might have been several years before this movie was re-released, because TriStar put it out, I believe, originally. And they were so mortified by the protest that they yanked it from the theaters. So, let me give you a little bit of a plot synopsis for the movie. The community leaders tried to stop the release. The PTA fought to ban it. Now, one of the most controversial slasher films of all time is back in a new high definition release. This new edition of the horror holiday favorite has been restored from the original vaulted film negative. And guys, it does look a lot better than that release that came out on Blu-ray a few years back. Silent Night, Deadly Night is the heartwarming story of little Billy Chapman, who was traumatized by his parents' Christmas Eve murder, then brutalized by sadistic orphanage nuns. But when grown-up Billy is to dress as Jolly St. Nick, he goes on a Yuletide rampage to punish the naughty. Santa Claus is coming to town, and this time he's got an axe. Robert Brian Wilson and Scream Queen Linnea Quigley star in this jaw-dropping horror classic that a nation of angry mothers still cannot stop. TJ, you say that reflects this year with people being ticked off at Tim Allen for the Satan joke in his new Santa movie. Yeah, people are, I swear, people get butthurt over the least little thing anymore. You literally cannot joke about anything. And that's not just Santa Claus. You can't joke about freaking anything anymore without somebody getting bent out of shape, or several somebodies getting bent out of shape. Now, I do remember the first time I saw Silent Night, Deadly Night. I did not get to see it in theaters. Probably, I would imagine, when it was originally out in theaters before it was yanked. I was too young to be going to see something like that. But I saw it several years later, probably around 1987 or so. And so this was at the point in time when a lot of grocery stores or convenience stores, or whatever you want to call them, had little sections where they had videos that you could rent. And there was a grocery store called, affectionately called Bill's on the Hill. um, where I'm from, my little bitty small town where I'm from. And so I was looking at the rentals, and I came across this movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I was like, well, this looks intriguing, you know? And so I took it home and I watched it. And yeah, it shocked me the first time I saw it. Because I had never quite seen anything like this. Um, because I hadn't seen Christmas Evil, which is one I'm also going to talk about tonight. Which, well, I'll talk about that one in a minute. But because I had never really seen at that point in time a horror movie where someone dressed as Santa Claus was killing people. I mean, I thought it was unique. I didn't, I was shocked that somebody actually was able to put something like this out. At that point in time, I did not know it had been yanked from theaters a few years earlier, either. I only found out about that years later when the actual like DVD releases and stuff started coming out, and they had Santa stalking of outrage and all that stuff, and you could, see all the protests and stuff like that. Because at the time of those protests, again, I was not old enough to remember any of that stuff. Hey, Dirk, you say just dropping by to say hi. Well, I appreciate that, Dirk. You stay as long as you can or as long as you want to. It looks like we got about 11 in here right now, and not everybody's chatting, so I know that there's probably several of you that just would rather watch, which is perfectly fine. Um, but not only is the parts where Billy dressed as Santa is going and punishing the naughty, and he actually says naughty, before he offs people in this film. But what happens to young Billy on Christmas Eve? Because there's a very like weird set of and terrifying set of events that happens at the beginning of this movie, because we start out with little Billy and his baby brother and his parents, and we see them traveling somewhere, and they mention that they're going to see Grandpa. Well, if you had not seen this movie before, you would guess they're going to Grandpa's house for Christmas Eve. They're going to celebrate with the old guy. No. Come to find out, Billy's grandpa is in a mental institution, where he appears to be catatonic. And guys, this is a very creepy scene. This weirded me out the first time I saw it. Maybe the first couple of times I saw it. So, why they leave little Billy alone with Grandpa? I guess they think because he's catatonic, there's no harm in doing this. But the mother and the father and the baby brother all go off with the doctor to discuss Grandpa. And they leave Billy alone with the old guy, and the old guy's just sitting in a chair, and he just seems to be staring straight ahead, staring into nothing. But as soon as the parents are gone, Grandpa suddenly becomes very animated. He turns and he looks at the boy, and Billy says, "Grandpa," and he starts talking about Santa and the terrible things that Santa does to naughty boys and girls. Um, and this starts to reinforce that idea that if you're naughty, Santa's going to punish you. And he's going to punish you in a very severe way. And that does not say that he won't kill you, even. So basically, Billy's terrified by this. So that's the first thing that happens. So on the way back home, Billy starts talking about Grandpa, and that, you know, he doesn't want to see Santa Claus because Grandpa told him that Santa Claus was going to punish him and all this. And he's getting pretty frantic. And the mother's trying to calm him down and all of that. So these scenes are kind of interspliced with scenes of a guy dressed in a Santa suit who goes into a convenience store to get, or a 7-Eleven type store or whatever, to get alcohol and cigarettes or something like that. He ends up holding up the store owner, and the store owner tries to pull out a gun, or does something to anger this guy. And this guy basically shoots the store owner in the head and just leaves him there, because he wanted the money out of the cash register. And I guess he thought he was really going to get a lot of money. And it's not very much at all. And you hear the guy in the Santa suit say, "Merry fucking Christmas," as he goes out. So you already know that this is a bad, evil guy. I don't know where he got the Santa suit. I don't know if he killed some guy and stole it, or he was actually one of those, as they used to call them, dime store Santas, or street corner Santas, or whatever. But he was really a bad guy. And so the guy takes off in his car, or a car he's stolen, and he ends up having some car trouble. Well, the Chapman family comes along, and the mother and father are overjoyed because the guy's dressed in a Santa suit. And they basically tell Billy, "Looks like you're going to see Santa tonight, after all, Billy." And of course, Billy's still thinking about what Grandpa told him in the mental hospital. And so he's like, "No, Dad, don't stop. Don't stop." And so the guy dressed in the Santa suit comes up to the driver's side window, and the dad rolls down the window, and he's like, "What's the trouble, Santa Claus?" or something like that. And he's, "Well, no trouble really. Just had a bit of bad luck." Um, and then he pulls out a gun, shoots Billy's father in front of him. The mother tries to get away. It's insinuated that the evil guy dressed like Santa Claus rapes Billy's mother. Billy's baby brother is left screaming in the car. So it, like I said, it's insinuated that Billy sees his mother get raped by this guy in a Santa suit, and then gets her throat slit on top of that. So Billy's hiding out in the weeds, and the guy's screaming. He says, "Where are you, you little bastard?" So there's all of this horrific stuff going on. And as if that all isn't bad enough, a few years later, we see Billy and his younger brother in an orphanage. And this orphanage is run by a very sadistic mother superior, which reinforces the naughty idea with Billy even more. So by the time Billy is a young man, he's pretty screwed up. Okay. So when he gets a job at the local toy store, and he is asked to dress like Santa to be their store Santa, without the store owner knowing Billy's history, all hell breaks loose, basically. So there's a line where the store owner, they're having a Christmas party. The store owner is drunk at this point. He says, come on over here, Santa, and take a break and all that stuff. Have you some snacks and all that. And he does talk to Billy, and of course his words are all slurred and stuff. He says, "You know what Santa Claus does on Christmas Eve, don't you?" And Billy, looking very serious, says, "Yeah, I know what he does." So he's of course thinking back to what happened when he was a little boy on Christmas Eve. Um, 71, you say, can't wait to see this. Um, yep, I remember that good scene. TJ, you say, Catholic nuns, Jess Franco knows they're evil. LOL. Yeah, exactly. Um, there are very few nuns that are portrayed as good, especially in horror films. I think there's one nun in this film um, that takes a shine to Billy and wants to help him out and all of that. But Mother Superior's not having any of it. So when Billy goes on a rampage, his ultimate goal is to take out Mother Superior. But I'm not going to tell you whether he succeeds or not. But we do have some, in my opinion, very memorable kills. Let me talk about one of them here. Um, two older boys who are kind of boys, steal the sleds of another couple of boys. And then they're using the sleds to slide down the hill in the snow. When out comes Billy and cuts one of the boys' heads off, and there's this very elaborate, memorable scene where the boy's head is bouncing down the hill, and the other boy who's already went down the hill on the sled sees the head come rolling down, and then the sled with the headless body of his friend comes down there. And we're not sure if Billy's going to succeed in killing the other boy or not. We just mainly see and hear him screaming a lot. This is also the scene where Linnea Quigley's character is impaled while she's topless on deer antlers. That is another very memorable and somewhat famous shot from this movie. So again, I'm not going to go on and on and on about these movies, but this is definitely one that I watch every year around the Christmas holidays. My mom always is like, Dana, why do you watch those horror movies around Christmas? I'm like, well, they have horror films for almost any and all holidays. And I have several favorites for Christmas. So I'm thinking they're here. I bought them. I want to watch them. There are other times when I watch them, but generally, these core ones that I'm talking about tonight, I wait until the Christmas season to watch them. So, that is Silent Night and Deadly Night. We got two more, guys. Texas says net went out trying to catch up. $71, you say, I have to watch this tonight after the month I'm having. I need some violence. Might make you feel better, actually, 71. TJ, you said Linnea's big year was 1984. Yes. 71, you said, my favorites are the Omen series. Nothing like the devil. LOL. Okay. Oh my gosh. Kirstie Alley passed away. Damn, we're just losing everybody. Do you know what happened to her, TJ? Did she, I mean, was it normal causes or was it a heart attack or? Man. I want to actually. She was 71. I didn't realize she was that old. Dang. Let me see what this. Oh, well, I didn't even realize she had cancer. It says on the Variety website that she died of cancer. Oh, so it was only recently discovered. Okay. Man. Yeah, Texas. Cancer apparently recently discovered cancer. Must have moved pretty quickly to take her out. Wow, guys, we lost another one. I mean, whatever people might think about Scientology, because supposedly, she was a Scientologist or into Scientology, but I still think she was an incredible actress. I really liked her a lot. But now that I'm bummed out over that, and not only do we have these damn fruit flies, but we have the house flies too that are occasionally, like every time it gets a little warmer outside, and I know it's not entirely warm here today, but um, we're getting the house flies, so they're swarming around my head. The fruit flies are swarming. I'm just sick of it all. I want to get rid of these damn things. But anyway, now that I'm bummed out over Kirstie Alley, I'm going to move on to another film which features a guy dressed as Santa Claus who kills people on the Christmas holiday, and that's Christmas Evil, starring Brandon Maggart, who, for those of you that don't know who Brandon Maggart is, he is Fiona Apple's father, but he also was in Dress to Kill. He was one of Nancy Allen's clients in Dress to Kill. So, a little bit of a plot synopsis for Christmas Evil. When he was a boy, Harry idolized Santa Claus. But one Christmas Eve, he witnessed something horrifying that forever shattered his innocent understanding of Santa. Now an adult, Harry wants to embody the pure Santa Claus he grew up loving. He works at a toy factory and keeps records of who's been naughty and nice. But the spirit of Christmas isn't what it used to be, and he can't take it. So, garbed in his red suit, Harry decides that the only thing he can do is become Santa himself and make all the naughty townspeople pay in blood. Vinegar Syndrome was proud to present Louis Jackson's cult favorite Christmas Evil, newly restored in 4K and Blu-ray for the first time. Texas, you say love Christmas Evil. I do too, Texas. This one was another one that I discovered kind of late in the game. Um, and it's one that I'm surprised that there were no protests over this one. Because, guys, this one came out quite a bit before Silent Night, Deadly Night. It still has a guy dressed in a Santa suit killing people. Um, and especially like the scene on the church steps when he basically kills two or three people in a row, very sadistic killings. um I just am really, I'm glad that it didn't get, shelved or taken out for a while like Silent Night and Deadly Night did. But on the other hand, I'm shocked that there were nobody said boo about it. When it's not exactly the same, but it has the same premise to it. Little Dumblin's books, you say, I didn't agree with her conservative politics at all, and not really down with the Scientology stuff, but I liked her acting, and I always thought she was really beautiful. Me too. Yeah. There's a lot of people that I don't agree with them, maybe politically or, you know, Scientology, I don't consider it a religion at all, but some kind of groups that they belong to, I guess would be the way to say it. But as far as their acting or if they're a singer, a musician, you know, sometimes I think the way we feel about somebody personally sometimes gets in the way, but I try not to let that happen unless it's just something really awful. Unless they went out and murdered somebody or something, I try um, to separate the two things or the three things or whatever. TJ, you say, I mean, the anti-vax stuff wasn't great either, but a funny actor. Yes. Yes, I agree. Um, so anyway, back to Christmas Evil. Brandon Maggart plays Harry in this. And yes, he does work at a toy factory. Um, and he keeps trying to um, encourage his brother. His his brother hasn't ever really been a big Christmas guy in the same way that Harry has been, um, even pretty much since they were kids. And that is shown in flashbacks where Harry's brother is basically saying, You're crazy, Harry. There's no Santa Claus. That's daddy. Um, but the scene, and some people might think that this is perverted and maybe not needed, but this is the scene that pushes, or this is the experience that pushes Harry over the edge. Their father dresses as Santa Claus during the opening scenes, and he eats the cookies and drinks the milk that they've left out for him. And Harry's just mesmerized. Santa Claus, he's seeing Santa Claus. The mother is sitting there with Harry and his brother on the steps, and they're being real quiet, and they're watching Santa Claus put presents under the tree. And like I said, eat the cookies and drink the milk. And you can almost see Harry's eyes sparkle. He's so excited. But then later, when the mother and father think that the boys are in bed asleep, the mother and father decide, it's safe to have a little hanky panky. And it's not just regular hanky panky. The father is actually going down on the mother. And I think we all know what that means in here. So, I'm not going to get any more descriptive about it, but Harry sneaks back downstairs and sees this, and that is what messes him up for all time. Um, so Harry starts out with good intentions, I think. He does have literally he has the big book of good girls and boys, and he has a big book with naughty boys and girls. And there's one particular kid who's extra naughty in this movie, Moss Garcia. And we see Harry watching all the children in the neighborhood. And there's one little girl, Susie Lovett, who he says he's just a doll, just an angel. She's so sweet and she's so pure and she's so good. She's everything that Harry feels that the true nature of Christmas is. So she gets to be in the good book. Every time he sees Moss, Moss is doing something that he considers very naughty. So Moss is in the naughty boys and girls book. For instance, Harry asked, he's walking by on the street and the kids are talking to him, and they're telling him what they're going to ask Santa for Christmas. And you hear Moss Garcia yell out, "I want a lifetime subscription to Playboy magazine." And you just see Harry's face just, he looks as if he could just kill that kid right now. He also sees Moss cutting naked ladies out of, I guess, a Playboy magazine or some other type of adult magazine. And speaking of adult stuff, I have to block this user or this bot. Little Dumplings book, she said that would mess me up too. I guess it probably would mess a lot of people up to some extent, maybe, or hopefully not to the extent it messed Harry up. So eventually, Harry goes completely over the edge and believes that he is Santa, and he has to punish not only bad children, but bad adults as well, naughty adults as well. So basically anybody who has wronged him, whether it's at work, is going to suffer his wrath. And there's a very creepy scene in this movie, or I think it's creepy, where instead of just simply putting a fake beard on, a fake white beard to act as Santa Claus, Harry wants to become Santa Claus, literally. So he ends up, I guess, super gluing this beard to his face. And he does the whole thing in the mirror where he's laughing and pulling on the beard, and it won't come off because he super glued it to his face. I find that whole scene extremely creepy and very effective. And so I'm not going to give away the ending to this, but the ending, although pretty much cut and dried if you're listening to the audio portion of the movie, and not just looking at the visual. If you're focusing on both of those things, it will be pretty cut and dried. But if you're not, then it might be kind of ambiguous. Okay. And I'll just say that. But Christmas Evil is another one that I think is very unique. Again, one that I have to watch every Christmas season without fail. And one that I would recommend to anybody that likes horror films or Christmas horror films and doesn't mind a guy dressing as Santa Claus and going out and killing people. You'll be fine with this. So that is Christmas Evil. So now we've reached the last one, and this is actually, I believe this is one of those really cheap diamond DVDs, and it actually has Christmas Evil on it as one of the features, but I've already talked about Christmas Evil, so I'm going to talk about the second film that's on this double feature. And before I really get into it, this is a movie that a lot of people complain is super boring and basically nothing happens in it. Okay. So that movie is Silent Night, Bloody Night. And the whole reason behind me buying this DVD a long time. It's been years. Still plays though, thankfully. Um, is I had Silent Night, Bloody Night, and Silent Night, Deadly Night confused because at that time it had been a long while since I had watched Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I was like, "Oh, there it is." So I get it home and I watch. That might have been where the first time I saw Christmas Evil, actually, too. But so I put it in thinking I'm going to see, Billy, dressing like Santa Claus and going out and killing people. I thought I was going to watch that movie. Yes, sir, TJ. Mary Warnoff stars in this. And TJ and I talked a little bit briefly about this movie last night during the Night of the Comet watch along. But boy, was I disappointed when I realized that this was not the movie I thought it was. And honestly, I did think it was boring and slow and all of that the first time I saw it. But then again, I gave myself a little bit of time and then I thought, I'm going to pull that movie back out and watch it again. So let me read you a little bit of a plot synopsis for this. A Silent Night, Bloody Night is a frightening and suspenseful film that has good performances, unique scripting, and some truly terrifying scenes. An escaped lunatic terrorizes the people of a small New England town, especially those in an old mansion that once housed a mental institution. Bodies and blood everywhere and no help in sight. Do not watch this movie alone. Now, while that plot synopsis is a little overblown, I'll be honest, it's meant to get you to watch it, obviously. This film came out in 1973. It is a very short film at 83 minutes, quite a bit shorter than a lot of films. Christmas Evil was 90 minutes long. It does pretty much star Mary Warnoff. But I don't know how many of you guys have in here have actually seen Silent Night, Bloody Night, but I know that the Dead Pit Boys have talked about it quite a bit and talked about how boring they think it is. I actually find this movie very creepy. Again, this is a movie that has some creepy phone calls in it. And while not on the level of Black Christmas, they still are very effective. The movie is very dark, but I think that works to its advantage. And there is one very violent kill near the beginning of this film where I'm not sure if this guy's a lawyer or a realtor or what. I think he may be a lawyer, and he's coming to this house, this mansion that used to be a mental hospital. And he's planning on helping the um, grandson of Mr. Butler, an old man who is believed to be dead, um, to sell the mansion for the grandson, Jeffrey Butler. So he comes with his mistress to this mansion and he meets up with several of the townspeople who all seem a little bit off. And we find out a little bit later in the film why they all seem a little bit off. Why almost everybody in this town, especially like people like the mayor and the newspaper guy and the lady that does the phone switchboard in town, why they all seem just a little bit off kilter. Okay, um, so the the lawyer and his mistress go back to this mansion and they're planning on staying the night or staying the weekend or whatever. and they are attacked by an unknown person who very brutally attacks them. And you may be thinking, okay, so they got this one brutal murder at the near the beginning of the film, and then nothing happens. Well, no, not quite, because it is a little bit of a slow burn, but I think the creepy phone calls to all of these prominent people in the town, the ones that I said are off kilter, and every time one of these people is called, they're told that the voice on the phone belongs to Mary Ann. Um, and we come to discover that Mary Ann was the daughter of Mr. Butler, the old man. Um, Mary Ann was his daughter, and we come to realize through a series of flashbacks, although nothing is overtly shown, thank goodness, but that he molests his daughter, Mary Ann, gets her pregnant, and Jeffrey, the grandson, um, is, I mean, it's almost like it's his grandson and his son, because this is the product of the molestation of his daughter, Mary Ann. And so after the molestation happens, um, Mary Ann becomes very disturbed naturally, and withdrawn and depressed and all of that. And so I think Mr. Butler's name was Wilfred Butler, I believe. Could be wrong on that. Y'all feel free to correct me if you know otherwise. But um, so he decides to call in all these different psychiatrists um, to his home, where he also kind of, I mean, not really invites, but encourages these doctors, I guess, to bring some patients of theirs um, to his home. And there it is turned into a mental hospital. But I guess he has the intention of trying to help his daughter first. But things go awry because these are not good psychiatrists. They basically lock all the other mental patients in a barn outside, or not inside the house, but just a barn to the side of the house or whatever. And they basically lock them up like animals in the barn. And only Mary Ann is able to stay in her bedroom in the house, and she's not getting any better. She shies away from her father naturally when he comes around her and all that. And she just cries all the time. Um, so these psychiatrists basically are just gluttons. They have no respect for Wilfred Butler's house. Um, they eat and drink in excess. They're just horrible, horrible people all the way around. And so Wilfred Butler just cannot take it anymore. Um, and so he goes and he lets all the mental patients out of the barn. They get pitchforks and all different kinds of weapons, come into the house and take out all these terrible psychiatrists and stuff. Um, and then they just kind of spread out in town. We learn later that these mental patients that were set loose by Wilfred Butler are the townspeople now, the mayor, the newspaper guy, um, played by John Carradine, um, and the mayor is plays Mary Warnoff's father in the movie, and she has no idea that he was once a mental patient at that mansion. Um, and Tess, the phone switchboard operator. So all of these people who were pretty prominent in this small town, but something always seemed a little off about them. Remember when I said that? And this is why. So when this all happened, Wilfred Butler intended to go get his daughter and take her away. Somehow, supposedly, she got mixed in with the mental patients, and Wilfred Butler says in a voiceover that they must have mistaken Marianne for one of the terrible doctors or one of their associates or whatever and killed her. Um, so I'm not going to give it all away, but even if you have heard that this movie's terrible, that it's boring, that it's very slow, that nothing happens, I would urge you, if you can find a for free version of this, to to give it a try, to give it a watch, because I think this movie has grown a lot on me over the years. Um, yeah, I was not a fan of it the first time I watched it. I did think it was boring. I didn't really get the story. You really got to pay attention to it. I'm not going to lie about that. Um, and it is a little bit of a slow burn. But I do think it is a decent movie. All in all, a decent Christmas horror movie. TJ, you say one of Elvira's movie macabre episodes in the early 80s was Silent Night, Bloody Night. Cool. John Carradine and Patrick O'Neill from the stuff. Exactly. Yes. I believe Patrick O'Neill is actually I think Patrick O'Neill, wasn't he in the Stepford Wives as well? Wasn't he the head guy that was helping them turn their wives into robots? They called him Diz or whatever because I think he used to work at Disney World, Disneyland or something. Um, but I believe he played the lawyer or whoever on Silent Night, Bloody Night. So, guys, I have reached the end of my first 5 of these. Like I said, they are in no particular order. I did not do them from 5 to 1 or 1 to 5. I just pulled some of these out from my stacks in the living room where I had my Christmas movies to watch. And I believe I have 3 more to cover when I do the second part of this next week. I'm guessing something must have come up and old Curly Jaws was not able to join me. Perhaps he'll be able to join me for the one next week. I may have it on Monday as well. We'll see. Um, and again, I want to remind you about my dinner with De Palma, which will be Thursday. I don't know what else I might be doing this week. So the week now, normally Fridays I take off. Um, so just keep that in mind. And of course, Saturday we have the Don't Open Till Christmas watch along that you guys can look forward to. And as always, I say anybody has an open invitation to come on and be live on the stream or live on the watch alongs that I do. I would love to have any of you guys that want to come on there, even audio only, even though Wes says audio only doesn't count. TJ, you say, yep, Stepford. Okay. I thought he was, but I wasn't 100% sure. So, I guess with all that being said, I am going to skedaddle on out of here for the night. I want to thank all of you that were in the chat and even all of you that were watching that weren't chatting. I appreciate you all. I appreciate those of you that watch this later. And even though we got 7 people still in here, good night, Texas. Good night, TJ, 71, Little Dumplings Books. Y'all have been the ones chatting a lot. But like I said, oh, well, you're welcome, Little Dumplings Books. And good night, 71. I'm glad that y'all enjoyed this. But with all that being said, as I said earlier, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night. And I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.